The thing that's coming across from what you just shared is what's in it for me. It's something that I always carry with me.
Yep.
You know, so then it's like, it's always about me, me, me. Then I'm having a hard time, how do I leverage what's in it for them so they can be interested in me, you know?
And that's,
can you just touch on that for me?
Sure, absolutely. And I don't think we want to give the impression that you're walking in there as this egomaniac, that everything's about me and no one else and no one else about them. I think if you can focus in on the what's in it for me, but at the same time, you kind of throw that mental focus out there on saying, how can I help somebody else at the same time by getting something back? It's like donating to charity. You're giving something of yourself to somebody else. Yeah, it's in it for me because it gives me a tax break. It gives me all the wonderful feelings about church and everything. But at the same time, somebody else is benefiting. So if you throw it out there and saying, hey, you know what, this is my problem, they're being pulled into you automatically. And then at the same point in time, you can reciprocate that back and say, hey, you must be working on stuff that's similar to this. What kinds of things are you running into? Do you have a similar roadblock? And maybe they haven't thought about something that's very similar to what you've experienced. You can exchange kind of back and forth. And even if you just walk in and talk to someone right up front and say, hey, I'm here to learn, you know, tell me what you're doing, then that draws them in. It's not focusing on you right away. So maybe that's for you. You could just do that, walk in and say, hey, you know, I'm interested in learning about these ideas. Are you working on any projects? And maybe I can talk with you about them. And during that, you can actually then hear what they're saying, what they're working on, and then throw it back at them in a kind of a sneaky way about answering your question back from what you need out of it. Does that give you what you need? Okay. Kat?
Yeah. What networking events have you attended in the area, say, in the last couple of years that you thought were especially beneficial? So if you had to just pick a couple, what would you say would be the most bang for your buck as far as time goes?
That's a great question.
I went to ICE, and I think, which is the ASTD International Convention. And I think in addition to everything that we said, it's important to get involved. So what I wanted to take away from ICE was lasting, meaningful relationships with people that I could network with. And so what I did was I volunteered at ICE. So I was there early, I was there all day, working with other volunteers, meeting people, and just really, it was just this great opportunity to go and see all of these wonderful presenters, but at the same time really interact closely with people who were just as passionate about ICE as I was. They're willing to volunteer and whatnot. So the presenters were great, I learned a lot, but really what I took away from that event were all of these relationships from the people that I met there and worked with. And I still see them. I see some of them in the audience. I remember them, they remember me, and it created that foundation of a starting point for a lasting business relationship.
I went to Sloan C, the Blended Learning Conference that was here in the spring. And I didn't go this year, I went the year before, and I met a couple of people that I still keep in regular contact with. It's a conference, but you have a lot of downtime in between sessions that you can, it's not a lot, but it's enough where you all go out and you have some food and start having some conversation. And so that was really fantastic. I also went to the one that they had down in Florida last fall, and that was, met a lot of people from the area here too, actually, that, and across the country, that there was a guy that was in Ohio that he and I were emailing back and forth about problems and solutions that we were having at the time. So even though it was a virtual relationship, and but we exchanged business cards, we had a great conversation, and we kept in touch until I changed jobs. So both of those were fantastic. So Sloan C is a great conference if you guys get a chance to go.
Which one was that again?
Sloan C.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Very good.
Most of my experience in that area as far as networking tends to be more law enforcement oriented. We have our own little networking groups, but it's more so for trainers and instructors from various government organizations. And on occasion, you will have professors from higher education who participate in a lot of the training excursions. My networking is more so traveling. I travel to the events for a week at a time to participate with other trainers, instructors, and others who are in the classroom or facilitate some type of role that supports law enforcement efforts with learning. And one of the best things that I walk away with all the time is having the experience of actually training and participating with folks from, say, Puerto Rico or from the southern part of the United States or from the West Coast. They have dynamic issues, they have other training concerns, and then having those professional development networks on LinkedIn, for example, or Blackso or one of the other places that you participate, share information. Here's a piece of information for you. If you're looking for an industry or a discipline to get into for training, look into law enforcement, because there's a tremendous need for trainers and instructional design specialists and people of that nature, because when I go to these networking events, those are some of the needs and deficiencies that are typically discussed. And ideally, if there were 100 of me, I would take all of the opportunities, because there is a lot of money involved in law enforcement training right now. Lots of money. A majority of the work that I do on behalf of the city of Chicago and the Chicago Police Department is funded through grants in the millions of dollars, with stipulations that this money has to be spent. And there's nothing worse than having a room full of people making decisions on training initiatives who have no experience and no business making those decisions. And it's great when you have people who are informed in the room making these decisions and creating these opportunities. So for you, maybe look at the law enforcement opportunities, not as actual law enforcement person, but a person who would work for a company that supports law enforcement interests, that on federal, state, and local level. But with regards to the training or the networking, in my situation, most of it is law enforcement oriented, not so much on the ground here locally, but I'm trying to, as one of those deficiencies I identified with the model, that's what I'm trying to improve right now. That is, come out and participate more in programs like this, and the T&D program I hear, there's supposed to be an alumni networking thing started soon. I got email about it, so there's a lot of stuff out here, and I need to get participate more right here as opposed to where I work at.
I was just going to say, I would love to hear somebody's 30-second commercial. Yes? Who wants to, one or two of you?
It's right there.
Oh, no. Say it.
It's right there.
Memorize.
You know, it really depends on the situation, what I'm trying to achieve or accomplish with that person in the elevator. It could be all of about 15 minutes. I'm sorry, 15 seconds. That's really cool. 15 seconds. That would be amazing, right? Obviously, the elevator, stuff, right? But understand, I think it really depends. That elevator speech has a whole lot to do with an elevator.
Okay, so let's just pretend it's sweet.
What you selling when you got all
I'm not selling anything. You and I are just meeting for the first time going to a networking event. We're both going up in the elevator together.
I really like your sweater.
Oh,
But it got you to smile.
That's nice break.
That was my icebreaker. That was my way of getting in.
Nice break.
And then whatever I'm trying to offer, an opportunity for me to enhance the performance of your organization. I am capable of doing, X, Y, Z. I'd like to discuss this further and understand your company currently has a need. That was based off my research. Going into the elevator, understand that you was the decision maker there. I then sell that or use that as a selling point. And then ideally I would ask, can I leave my business card with the person so that we can discuss, and maybe ask, can I have yours as well? Ideally, we probably would have it because you're the decision maker.
Good. So, okay, now if you were just like a brand new graduate, would you say anything about
You know
your
what?
masters?
I'll be honest, I think it really depends on how comfortable you are with yourself. I think when you go into something new for the first time, I don't care how good you are at it, I think that you're going to have some jitters. And you can practice in the mirror all day long. It's not really real until it happens. Ideally, I would recommend being just honest. Just honest, and if you don't get the response you're looking for, don't be discouraged. I mean, ideally, it takes true professionals, sometimes years, if not decades, to actually, I guess, get the skill or the confidence necessary to always be effective, even when they're asleep. So for a new person, don't be discouraged. I would say just constantly practice it, rehearse it, use it on your friends, use it on your parents, whatever, in order to say practice it so that you can at least get to that point where you're confident all the time. But new people, don't be discouraged.
I think one point you were making too, Ray, is make it sound natural.
Exactly.
You don't want it to sound, manufactured. So,
Exactly.
Which is another good point. Steve, any networking events you attend locally? Or?
A lot of the stuff that I kind of get into deals with the compliance side, government regulations. And so a lot of the government regulations now, especially that we have to work with, we manufacture test components for HIV, hepatitis, blood analysis. And so a lot of the regulators that are from ISO, Canadian Blood Banks, the FDA, those types of things, we start seeing patterns develop, and you start getting these things from the government saying, well, you guys aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're putting the public at risk. Well, how do you then take that down? So these conferences kind of deal with what's a safe approach, how do you know if people are appropriately trained so when they make something, somebody is analyzing the blood appropriately, and you're getting a positive or a negative when you should be getting one of those. And so it kind of delves into that aspect of where we need to go with the knowledge and the learning. And so that's, I think, really important, at least in our field. And I know it's a lot different than some of the other panelists, but it gets back to what's the whole design of what you're doing. Well, the training in that perspective is the networking events are the regulators, other industry people, not only the learning side and how to put that in your organization, but then the actual technical components to make sure you're not violating FDA regulations.
I have one thing. Steve said something about like looking on LinkedIn to see what we're gonna, to get some good reading in for if you were to attend a networking event or just to get some more information about what's going on. If you're new to this field, which a lot of people are who are in this program, and you probably don't know what organizations to look for on LinkedIn. One thing that has been really helpful, or was really helpful when I first was trying to figure out, what organizations were out there on LinkedIn, was looking at what other people that I have connections with, like what organizations they're a part of. And so if you just go and look at their profile, snoop around on their profile, and just see what organizations they're a part of, and then you sign up, you'll get approved for the organization, and then I'm on a listserv where they, for a lot of them, where I'll get daily posts sent to my email, and there'll be lively discussions about what's going on, there's, I don't remember what organization, but they were talking about, what's the best book you ever read related to training and development, or what are some great development tools out there for people wanting to get into e-learning. So I'll get an email status update every single day with what conversations are going on, and then I can go out there and have, maybe, these networking events only come along once in a great while, but you can be networking and communicating and learning every day in the virtual community. So that's one way you can figure out what's going, like what organizations to join.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes, sure.
There's also opportunity for you to build your skill set through volunteer opportunities. So, if you're in the training program here, but you don't necessarily have the skills, you're not using any of these skills in your current job or whatnot, and you want to work on volunteer projects, there are opportunities out there where you can actually, especially now with the economy being so rough, a lot of nonprofits specifically had to cut all of their training departments. And I'm working with a client right now who lost all their funding from the state, so they need someone to do diversity and presentation skills and sexual harassment training and whatnot, and they don't have trainers to do this. So there's an organization, ASTD, there's a community relations part. If you're interested, there are opportunities for you to get practical application experience to build your resume and to add on to your the competency model.